This is really wonderful. I'm sure you all remember Joan Caulfield.
Yeah.
Joan Caulfield's son is right here. Kevin Ross. And right here, well, I'm so pleased he's here. Cameron Mitchell Jr.
The only no junior here. How old am I today?
No,
All of these guys?
happy birthday, by the way. Well, we'll deal with that later tonight. Yes. Anyway, all right. Now, let's see. Does anybody have questions for all these people? Please. All right. Then we're going to start. We're going to start with Jordan because someone had a question about how Linda was cast in this show, and I can't imagine anyone else who could answer this other than Jordan, I hope. So, Jordan, why don't you add to that?
Sure, and thank you for Kent, for Susan, for putting this on, guys. Let's give them a hand. I mean, it's not only that it changed the lives of millions and millions and millions of viewers, but the cast, and of course all of you that made it possible. So, you know, my mom, Linda Cristal, would want you guys to know how much she appreciates everybody for this because, you know, it was a show that had morals, it had values, and it didn't need the explosions and all that's in today. It was written well and it was acted even better. So, so thank you to all of you. In terms of the story, so my mom, still today, I can tell you as her son, she's very strong-willed, and she has an idea of how things need to be and how things should be. And so she heard about the show and she told her agent, I hear they're shooting a show called The Chaparral, and I think it'd be perfect for me. So she told the agent, go and get information on it. And the agent said, sure. And he found some information. She goes, to tell you the truth, it's already written, it's already cast. In fact, they've already filmed the pilot. Half of the pilot's already filmed. It's done, too late. And she, you know, my mom is, well, let me meet them. And the agent said, no, you don't, it's already cast. They've shot half the pilot. It's done.
I'm sorry?
And of course, knowing my mom, she said, let me meet them. They will realize why they need to have me. So, knowing my mom, he agreed to set it up. And to make a long story short, they met her. They rewrote the script, and all of a sudden an arrow came out of nowhere, takes a person out, she comes in, and from there on, the Chaparral continued on its wonderful path. So it's a good beginning because it just tells you a little about my mom. My mom likes challenges. In fact, I was talking to her this morning, and I said, so, you know, we're working on her vignettes, she calls them. You guys on her Facebook know. And so she's recanting all these different things, great things with Henry and the rest of the cast, and she said, you know, make sure they understand that I don't, you know, right now she has vision issues. She can't see very well, that's why she doesn't do a lot of these things, and she doesn't sign, but she says, make sure they understand that I never give up on a challenge, ever. And I knew that, right? And so that's pretty much it. It was, it's just a testimony to her diligence.
You can ask Cameron Mitchell about dealing with Linda Cristal. They had wonderful arguments. She got a red carpet to her dressing room one time when we were on location. The stunt people and the costume and the wardrobe people, whatever, they all got together and said, let's make Cam jealous. And unfortunately they did, but they would have wonderful discussions, and right in front of the whole company. I mean, it would be, Linda would do a lot of finger waving. And Cam would go, oh, no. But they were a good couple, and they were a wonderful acting company to work with Cam and to work with Linda. And they always, if they were a little short, time-wise, while they were filming, the director might say, can you guys do about 5 or 7 seconds in Spanish? And that's all it took. 5 or 7 seconds, sometimes we went on a bit. The director would have to say, cut, you guys are talking too much. But it's been a pleasure in working with everyone. And now meeting the family again. I hadn't seen Jordan in years and decades. And working with your father was a wonderful treat for me. Working with Frank Silvera was just a treat. And when Frank would forget dialogue, he would look and go, oh, Manolito. And then he would go, oh. And that's when I knew, oh, Frank, you're up. You don't know the next one.
And Frank,
Pleasure working with you.
yeah. And Frank, what did your father feel for this show? How did he feel about doing this show?
Well, this was sort of his peak on TV. He had worked many different shows. And this was where he now had a leading, or as opposed to just a one-time shot here, a one-time shot there. So, yeah, this, had he not left us so soon, this would have been a pathway to a lot more for him.
It's a shame. He loved him so much. Loved him so much. And of course, poor Joan Caulfield.
He's the one that got the arrow.
She's the one who got it. And I'm sure that Kevin recalls seeing that, even though he was, I think, what, 6 years
6
old?
years old.
But there was something about seeing his mother get an arrow that was in his mind all the time.
Well, it was a short scene. When you guys were talking about the horse stunts and the riding, and I remember that my mother would ride English, and one of the questions I had in my mind was how did she handle herself in the saddle on your show?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm curious as
She
to that.
was wonderful.
Because there were some riding scenes, correct?
Yeah, there were. She was fantastic. Well, she was a beautiful actress, and she had done so much before this.
Sure.
And she had such wonderful, but I'm sure because you were so young, you don't really remember the stories of Chaparral. But Kent was saying that there was some time between scenes that he had a chance to sit and talk with Joan Caulfield for about an hour, and he said he felt she was just a delight to know.
She was a genuine lady.
Yes, she was a wonderful woman.
And she also named the High Chaparral.
Yes. That's right. That's right. And of course, what can we say about Cameron Mitchell?
Well, he really loved doing the show, and I remember hearing about it. Actually, David Dortort, who he had done the Oxbow incident with years before, was an old friend, and he was doing movies in Italy at the time, the spaghetti westerns and all of that stuff. And he told me he was sent a script from David about the show, and David initially thought he might want to play John Cannon. But Dad saw the script, and he looked at Buck, and he went, no, that's the role I want to play. And eventually knowing that Henry would be his sidekick, and Henry, remember Chipper? Yeah, that was my nickname.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I was always at the Paramount Backlog with my sister,
right.
remember?
Yeah, okay.
He loved you, so did
We
I.
had a great time together. It was fun working with Cam. Sometimes he came overly prepared, other times, sort of.
Oh, because there were days when I would drive with him. I mainly would go to the back lot at the Paramount when they were shooting here.
Yeah.
and Dad would be memorizing his lines as we were driving. And he was very fast, I have to
Oh,
say.
yes, yeah. He's the one who taught me to gamble on dog racing. There was a track down in, I think it was called Tubac. I don't know, 15, 20 miles from oh God, where we shoot?
That's,
In Tucson.
he went Fridays.
He went,
He took Rudy too.
oh, okay, yeah, you have to learn.
Wind.
You have to learn from a master. And certainly Cam filled all of those needs, and let's face it, he had worked with some of the biggest stars of all time. I mean, Clark Gable, Gary Cooper, Spencer Travis, Cam, and the shadow on the
Anyways, he loved the show. He absolutely adored playing Uncle Buck. And I know that, you know, he had a wonderful, very varied career and worked with all kinds of people and he actually introduced Marilyn Monroe to Arthur Miller because he'd done Death of a Salesman. And he was doing How to Marry a Millionaire. And he got a call from Arthur Miller saying, Cameron, I want to come and have lunch with you. Could you do me a favor? And he said, well, Arthur, of course, what would you like? He said, would you arrange for Marilyn to be at lunch? And that was when they started going out. They got married a year and a half later. But anyways, he had a lot of interesting things in his career and in his life, but he really loved High Chaparral.
All right, there is a woman who came up to, one of the fans came up to me yesterday and asked me a question, and I really had no answer, and I don't think even Kent had an answer to this. She said, why was it that one episode, all of a sudden, Cameron Mitchell had blonde hair?
Yes.
Maybe you could tell me?
You know, that was always fascinating for me as well. Because actually, when he was a baby, he did have blonde hair till he was about a year, and then it turned my color. And it's interesting because in Death of a Salesman, when he played Happy, because he created the role of Happy on Broadway and in the film, he did it with blonde hair as well. So I don't know if he had some secret yearning, but somehow or other, I think he just thought because of Buck's Southern whatever, that maybe he should be.
All of us.
I know. It was interesting.
It was shocking when everybody saw it.
Now the funny thing is my brother, who's no longer with us unfortunately, Fred, had blonde hair because my mother was blonde. My sister is fair, Fred was fair, I'm dark, my other brother was dark. But David at one point, when they were, just before they were getting ready to shoot the pilot, offered Fred the role of Blue Boy. This is my brother who was at the University of Arizona. But Fred turned it down because he was interested in business. He eventually ran a family business we had in Canada. And it was an interesting, he just did not, but he did have the blonde hair. And I don't know, Dad had some weird idea that because Blue was blonde.
Some kind of connection.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I understand. Well, Jordan, now I know, and later maybe you can read it, or if you want to read it now, whichever, but I think maybe later. I know Linda wrote a special note for the fans, and I just want to tell them that you're going to probably read that later when we present an award for her, because I think everyone would really love to hear what she has to say about the show and how she felt. Did you read it? Obviously you've read it before.
Yeah, it's not very long, but my mom is always very much to the point, and I think you guys you'll get it right away. Just like Henry got the broom in a lot of scenes. My mom makes her point well known. So I think, I think get the awards, whenever you think.
I think that would be lovely if you could.
Most of you probably don't realize that Kent and a lot of the people, David and people that did the show took a chance by bringing in so many Latins. I was just talking to Henry. Henry, why don't you talk about, because that wasn't prevalent then.
Well, no, it was the first show I thought that really nailed it down by bringing so many Latino actors, and of the 11, You had Rodolfo Acosta, who had won the Mexican Oscar. You had Roberto Contreras. You had guest stars, Alejandro Rey, Fernando Lamas, Ricardo Montalban worked a couple of shows and episodes. It was, David really got into helping the Latin. And at that particular time, Ricardo formed an organization called Nosotros, which means we in Spanish. And I was lucky enough to be voted in as vice president. And for years, we pushed the Latino idea. And then, of course, several of the series, Resurrection, and it's sort of leveled off now, and it's not a hassle as it used to be. But there were a lot of agents that held mostly with Latino actors, and they gradually went by the wayside. You got actors like Hector Elizondo and Eugenio del Toro, and people that can do anything, and no accent involved.
I think High Chaparral was a breakthrough.
It really was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Wasn't
I
it?
think so.
Yeah.
You know, it was a show that everybody wanted to be in. If you guys have watched, as I do, I've recorded all of them, and I've got the DVD set, and it's still on 2 or 3 times a day on Inspiration Channel. I'm always watching it, and I'm always like, is that Kurt Russell? Oh, yeah. I mean, I see all these celebs now.
And I got a note from him, by the way. And he said he loved this show. He always remembered doing this show. I cast him on a Hawaii Five-0 at one time. And when he first came on the set there, he said, I'll always remember High Chaparral.
Oh, great.
So,
Actually, Kurt Russell came to see my father just before he passed away, because when he heard from my sister he was ill, because they lived in the same part of LA at the time, he said, oh my God, I loved your dad. He was so cool. And he said it was the first episodic television he did outside of being a musketeer.
That's right.
And it had really, really important memories for him. And he loved the show.
And of course, we had his father on Bonanza, Bing Russell, who played our deputy sheriff. And Kurt was, Bing was a wonderful baseball player. Kurt loved baseball, and it's a wonderful family, the Russells. They're wonderful people. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that I did hear from him, and he was really a terrific man. But Frank Silvera, that was a terrific man.
Thank you. He was, but after listening to the previous panel, I do have to say that he was not like every other actor from Hollywood. He could not ride a lick. He was petrified of horses. But he was also different in another very significant way, which many of you may not know. He was born in Kingston, Jamaica. He was not a Latino. His father was a Portuguese merchant marine who, after stopping in Kingston, never got back on the ship. So my dad was actually a Jamaican. He grew up in Boston and moved to New York, where my sister and I were born. Actually, I was born in Boston, but we moved to New York after that. His idea of acting was not acting, it was being. And whatever role he played, whatever accent, dialogue, he studied. It was work. It wasn't just like he listened to a few tapes and he had voice coaches, dialect, not just the words, but gestures, the body language to make it real, to be that person he was. And I've heard people say he was mischievous, had a little funny sense of humor. One of the great stories I remember is I must have been about 8 or 10 at the time. And in New York, where we lived, there were all of these you know, grocery stores with open air grocery stands, veggies, fruits, and things like that. In our neighborhood, they were mostly run by Italians. So one afternoon, my dad decided he wanted to get some fruit, and he walks up to this stand with me in tow, and he starts talking to the proprietor. Kumba, you got to give me the fruit. And the guy's looking at him saying, no, I cannot do it. And he looks down at me. And my father, oh, come on, now you give me 6. So he was a mischievous, but again, like I said, he was a hard-working man. This did not come natural to him. And he was a great guy. He was a great dad, even though I didn't see that much of him because he was, you know, either on the road or he was a Broadway actor.
He formed many acting groups, didn't he?
Yeah.
He started them, I recall.
Yeah,
He became one of the top coaches.
yes, he did.
Yeah.
I remember meeting people like Morgan Freeman and Cicely Tyson when they were young. You know, because my father took me around with him a lot. He was a pretty interesting guy.
Absolutely.
Really an interesting guy. But he could not ride.
But if you remember, he had an amazing saddle.
And he couldn't play poker. He said, watch, I'm going to shake these guys down and all I have is a pair of 2s. And everybody would come in and bet heavy because they knew Cam had a pair of 2s.
Did you ever know the story, Henry, about when Cam was playing cards with kids? And I think a group of you were playing cards.
Yeah.
I think it was poker. And Cam was playing, and Buttons, your brother, was on the side, looking at the hand. And they were in the middle of the hand, and all of a sudden Buttons says, Dad, that's not a winning hand. Well, you can imagine, right? But it was just so funny, this little boy, Dad, no, so funny, so funny.
I wonder who paid him to say that.
Exactly. No, it was great. Your dad loved to gamble a bit, didn't he?
Well, yeah, he loved going to the track, especially.
Yeah.
That was one of
Yeah.
he loved horses. Actually, my mother's father introduced him to horses because he actually was from Europe originally. He had stables and horses in Europe, and so yeah, my grandfather is responsible.
By the way, can I call you?
Call me Cam, call me Chip, whatever you
I
want.
think I'll call him Chip. I like that.
Yeah, that's my handle of
Okay, all right. Well, Chip's sister is coming in this evening, Camille, and we'll have Camille on a panel tomorrow as well.
Yeah,
And she's really sweet. I love
she's
her
a
very
sweetheart.
much.
She is.
So you'll have fun. I love that you were named, and she's Camille, and you're Cam.
Yeah, well,
Junior.
we're all C's. And actually, it's interesting, my father, all of his brothers were C's. There was, Cameron was the oldest,
Right.
Charles was the next, Carlisle, and then Channing, my uncle who just passed away. So they all had unusual names. Cameron is not an unusual name today, but when my father was born, there weren't a lot of Camerons around in those days. Yeah, but it was my grandmother who loved those names. Yeah.
Isn't this exciting, you guys? I mean, look at how many people together. It's almost like family.
Well, boy, did I hear stories. I'll tell you, though, that it looks like great fun, but I can tell you, when I was about 6 or 7, I went on the set in Tucson. I remember, and I'm from California, and it was hot there.
Yeah.
I mean, Henry was 120 in the shade. When I went there, you were sitting, the cats kind of sat in the circle. I remember Henry was always like this. And I remember it was so hot. My mom used to wear these. You guys remember linen or what
Yeah,
were those
I
things?
don't know, but
It was
it was
linen, really hot. She said it was so hot.
And not ever a complaint from her. Never.
Not to you guys. No. But
Now we know.
so I said to her this morning, you know, I was on my hair. I said, "Now I don't understand something. Chip, you can help us with this. Cameron, you know, she was telling me about the thick clothes. I get it. Listen, I get it, right? I said, but Cameron was wearing black all the time.
Yeah.
So he must have been dying. And then Rudy, is Rudy in the room? Can I tell the story?
Yeah, you
Rudy can tell you the secret of how. Chip, do you know his secret? Do you know the secret how he stayed cool? Yeah. Okay. Chip, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I wanted to say I loved your mom because
Oh,
I used to visit on the set in here in Paramount, and she was so sweet and
Thank you.
beautiful, wonderful, beautiful woman. And she was always so sweet to myself and my sister. I just loved looking at her. And watching her act.
She always loved the kids. She told me that too. This always loved the kids on the set. Any of the kids and all that.
No,
she
she did.
Yeah.
She was great. But with the black uniforms, yeah, that was a trick. And it was that kind of, it wasn't Velcro, but it was kind of predecessor like corduroy cotton. And velour, yeah, which he loved because it was comfortable. It was like wearing pajamas almost. But you could douse water on it and it never showed. So he would be in 135-degree heat and just go. Once his hair was dry, this was still moist and comfortable. Right?
So he was comfortable when everybody else is dying. Now, there was a lot of places you can find water. Do you know where I'm going?
Oh, yeah. Okay, continue. No.
So, Rudy was the one who told me this. Rudy, say it out loud so people can hear.
He was not above dunking himself in the horse trough
Exactly. Yeah,
on a really, really hot day.
yeah, on a really hot
You
day.
couldn't tell he was wet, right, Henry?
But,
Couldn't tell.
yeah, it's, you know what? It's like,
Yeah. And it's funny, I remember Kurt Russell told me, now this is going to sound odd, my father did have he was a very creative man.
Oh, creative.
That's a nice word. But Kurt Russell thought it was so cool because there were days when they were shooting, and I think they were maybe out in the Vasquez Rocks, I don't know where they were, somewhere around town. And apparently he put butter on his face and said it was good for your skin in the heat so it wouldn't crack. And Kurt thought that was so cool. Yeah, he definitely thought my father was an original, which we know he was, right? But anyways, yes, the horse trough and the butter. So.